Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to go through the process of one of my recent art pieces titled Heart Hen, Gray Heart Hen to be exact. So this one is a 4x4 inch wooden panel, it's birch panel I believe, on a pine board. It's a 4x4 inches and I'll be using gouache paint today. You'll see in some of my other videos as well as my website and everything that I use a lot of watercoloring ink as well. That's been my go-to medium for the past, or mediums to be exact, for the past 10 years at least. Within the last year and a half, I've been kind of branching out and experimenting with gouache, just because I've always heard the saying it's this happy medium between watercolor and acrylic, because you get once it dries, you get like that nice matte sheen that you get with acrylic, and dries not as fast as acrylic, but definitely dries faster than watercolor, but it also has like the nice blendability of watercolor. So I bought this set of colors. I don't know how many colors in there. It's a big old box. So yeah, let's get started. As you can see here, I already had the chicken, my hen, sketched onto the board. In the next video, you'll actually see my sketching process. So for now, just bear with me. I kind of had this drawn and then thought, oh, this would be a cool process video to show everybody and to talk about. So it's already sketched on the board. Kind of going in with this like minty green that I mixed on my palette. Please don't judge me. I am one of those people that mixes paint with the brush. Hardly ever use a palette knife just because it's in a box somewhere and I'm too lazy to go find it. Anyway, moving on. So I'm going with painting the background first, the largest areas of color first. So going around the hearts carefully with a filbert brush. I believe that's what that is there. Yes. So going around, doing the background, and then once I have that, going in and doing those little tiny hearts. You can kind of see as the paint dries, it kind of gets that little like matte finish. You can kind of see on the left-hand side of the video, like where it's not shiny. So it's like that matte is nice and dry. Not completely dry yet. And then here you can kind of see where I cut to adding in the hearts. Kind of let the rest of the background dry before I added in the hearts because I didn't want to like pick up any of that minty green color. And also for some reason the lighting temperature of my camera changed. I don't know why. It got weird here for a minute, so bear with me. My room isn't that yellow. I don't know what happened. Anyway. And you can kind of see here, so I went with a straight metallic green color, and even with how wet it is, you can see how the light's already bouncing off it, just like the idea of the metallic kind of bouncing off once it's hung up on the wall, just at the different angles. You can kind of see the light reflecting off of it. So going in with a round brush, trying to be careful. Something with gouache I kind of been avoiding is, with acrylics, you can just layer and layer colors and not have to worry about, as long as your acrylic layer underneath is completely dry, you don't have to worry about lifting that color up once you paint over it again. Gouache is kind of similar to watercolor in that if you have too much, so say you have like one layer done, you want to go over it again with something else. You want to be careful you don't have too much water on your brush because it will definitely lift up that bottom layer, and then you'll get those really annoying streaks where like there's just too much water and it's lifting up your paint and it's just hard to fix and it looks bad. So I've been trying really hard to figure out how much paint I need and how much water. So the paint to water ratio is a bit of a learning curve with gouache, but it's a nice learning curve. Definitely makes me more mindful of like how much water I'm using on the brush. So here I have the background done. Going in with this grayish color I mixed. Kind of mixed it with a little bit of white. I had black and some white, just get like a nice, I would call that a cooler gray. Being careful around the eye, because again, I don't want to have to, paint paint the whole head, then end up having to paint the eye because I don't want to lift up any of that color. So just trying to save myself a headache. So going around her eye, going out using this little round brush. It has like a smaller tip, so I get more of those finer details. And going around the eye a little better, around the comb, her beak, all that stuff. And if you didn't know, hens and roosters can have combs and wattles. It just depends on the breed. And they actually use that wattle and comb. That's for like heat regulation. It's just like these like fleshy parts of their heads. So there's your fun fact for the day. And go tell all your friends that. Here I'm kind of mixing in. So a little bit of water, you kind of see it's still pretty wet there. Because the first layer, like on the back of her neck, I didn't use enough water, and I could just feel the brush like dragging across the wood. Because that's also one thing about painting on unprimed wood, is it's a thirsty medium, or a thirsty substrate, I guess you would say. So it's just soaking up any moisture that I had on that brush. So I was trying to use just a tiny bit more water than I would normally use, say if I was painting gouache on like some sort of paper suitable for gouache. I'm definitely painting the sides because I had a really bad habit in high school and on some college projects, not painting the edges, or just like leaving them, just painting them black. Here I wanted the image to continue all the way around. That way when it's on the wall, you can kind of look at it at different angles, kind of get that metallic sheen of the hearts, but also seeing, you know, the rest of the hen kind of continues to the edge of the wood. And it was kind of hard to paint at this size, to be honest. It's 4x4 inch painting. It's kind of hard to paint at this size just because I'm used to like hunkering over my drawings or paintings and almost having my left hand resting on them or my right hand resting on them just to have more support. And it was kind of hard to do that at this scale, and also trying to keep my hands out of the way of, you know, the video that I was trying to accomplish. And here I use this nice bright red to contrast that green background, because red and green are opposites on the color wheel, which is okay to do, you know, you do you. I think if you're going to do opposite colors, one kind of needs to be more dominant than the other in the image, so there's definitely more green in this painting than there is red. Grabbing some more white. Here I'm going to paint her beak, and so I take a little bit of that gray and just make a lighter tone of that gray for her beak. And there I am again, you know, mixing with my paintbrush. Oh gosh. Like when I'm doing it, I know it's like I shouldn't be doing it that way, but I'm lazy when it comes to mixing paints. Please don't be mad at me. And one thing I read too, which I also ended up doing, I did a lot of research before I got into gouache, you know, read a lot of articles, blogs, and stuff like that. Definitely have a extra tube of white gouache, and the reason being is because it'll help you cut down on the amount of paint you're using. If you mix just a tiny bit of white with your paints, I didn't do it with this one, but if I was doing a larger scale painting, I would definitely do it. So mixing a tiny bit of white with whatever color you're using will help extend that paint so you're not using it as much from the tube. The way you're still getting the same like saturation. But it's going to be just, you know, a tiny bit lighter, but I don't think it's going to be that much to make a huge difference. That's just what I read. Let me know if that's something you do, or if that's something that's just completely bonkers and I've been lied to buy more white paint. And adding in some little highlights in the eyes with some white gouache with that round, just the very tip of that round brush. And adding in a little bit of like highlight to the heart and her beak, as well as getting some highlights on her beak. And then here, going to the inking stage, you can kind of see where on the beak where I started inking. I don't remember which pen it was that I was using, but I hated the way it was kind of like stuttering across the wood, because like there's still like a bit of a wood grain to the wood. I just hated the way it was like drawing on there. I was like, I was going to end up screwing something up and be really sad. So I went with one of my micron pens. This one's more of a chisel tip, as opposed to like the regular like small bullet tip nibs, I think is what you call them. So here, adding in my lines, kind of doing like little broken line style, just to kind of not make it completely outlined, I guess you would say. It kind of adds a little more interest too, and just have a little more fun with the line work. This is definitely something that I guess you could say my style is known for, is line work. Got my first set of micron pens in high school and never looked back. Definitely have branched out from microns. They're definitely a good user, like beginner friendly pen, and they're not too bad on price. But definitely expanded to what pens I've using over the years. Have a big old box of different pens. Some are, water resistant, some are not. Definitely prefer the water resistant ones because I like to use watercolor. But here, like, it doesn't really matter since I'm kind of doing the inking at the end stage. As opposed to like some of my watercolor paintings, I would do the inking stage first. So definitely need something that's not going to bleed or smear once it's dry and you like paint over it with your watercolors. And you can kind of see also, I did a few things off screen, sorry. The like lightish gray highlights on her body. I did those with that filbert brush, kind of just use that same white on her beak on the rest of her body, just to get a little more dimension and volume to the hen. And I actually gave her a little bit of blush on her cheeks with some of that pink. Gave her little like rosy cheeks. That was pretty cute. And just finish inking up the hearts all the way around. This was kind of hard to do, especially, didn't really have a steady surface to put my hand on while I did this, so this was kind of annoying. And, drop it on his face, it's all good. And taking a Posca, and this is really the fun part, making sure the Posca works. Just adding in more highlights, reinforcing the highlights on the eyes, adding some on her beak again, and just doing some fun little highlights on the rest of her body. Just kind of here having fun, being like, just looking where I thought it would look cool to add some white, so. And then going in, inking that heart in her beak, because I almost forgot it. And as a final measure, signing it. And there it is. So here we go. It's the final product. Finished painting. Kind of getting a nice little close up there. You see the way the highlights on the hearts reflect. The metallic on the hearts reflects rather. And thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next video. I will be painting another hen. And goodbye.